And welcome to the latest episode of the Hero Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Winnie, my man behind the computer, doing all of the hard work, Deputy Mike Wilbur. So this is a first for the Hero. We haven't had, other than Connie, we haven't had any other females on yet, and we are lucky to have some different. We've had a lot of road deputies, corrections officers, but we haven't had anybody from 911 dispatch and everything else you guys do together. So, Detective Audrey Mossl and let me get this right. Ulster County Department of Emergency Services CAD Administrator and EMD Lisa Conklin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So, both of y'all, let's get started with a little bit of your backgrounds. Audrey, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So I started with the Sheriff's Office in 2018 as a part-time dispatcher, but I actually worked at an agency in Florida as a 911 dispatcher down there, as well as a victim advocate. So all in, I've been in the law enforcement field for about 12 years.
And Lisa?
I've been at Ulster County 911 since 2008. Started as a dispatcher and then a supervisor, moved into a training role, and then moved into kind of a more systems and teaching for our staff. So I'm currently CAD administrator, former training supervisor in charge of EMD, things like that. Before I got into that, I was mainly on the EMS side of things. I've been in EMT since 1999. And yes, that makes me kind of old. And I've been a paramedic and still am a paramedic since 2005. Worked for multiple agencies in both Ulster and Dutchess County, a little bit in Orange as well. I currently do some teaching for EMD and mental health related information at Ulster County 911, and I am active in a SOPIS ambulance, a life member there and a company officer, and just really happy to be here to talk about first responder issues.
Do you sleep at all?
Not nearly enough,
Yeah.
but better than I did when I was on nights.
Yeah, for sure. So, Audrey, we'll start with you. What originally drew you into public safety?
I went to SUNY Ulster and got my associates in criminal justice, and then from there I got my bachelor's from New Paltz in communication. So communication's always been something really important to me, and all the different facets of it, whether it's interpersonal communication, body language, nonverbal communication, structural communication with a hierarchy or chain of command, and just knowing that law enforcement kind of encompasses all those different types of communication. That there was a lot that was appealing to me about the field of law enforcement. And when I moved down to Florida, so literally just saw online that there was a job opening for what was called a call taker down at the 911 center in Indian River County. Read through the credentials and the different tasks associated with it, and I said, "Oh, this sounds interesting," and applied and got hired. And then I blinked, and here I am.
Did you have any moments where you're like, man, what did I get myself into?
Absolutely. All the different trainings, the crazy calls, the fun calls of the drunk people calling in the middle of the night, and then kind of obviously moving toward the more serious calls, and then into the dispatching with the fire and EMS side and the law enforcement side. It was a much more varied job than I thought it was going to be, and I definitely have learned a lot from all my years down there.
Moving into the role of investigator now, do you feel you would have been different? Do you feel you're a different investigator now because of the other aspects that you've done in the past?
Yeah, definitely, especially with the 911 portion. It's communicating over the phone and over the radio, right? So you don't have that ability to look at who you're talking to most of the time. So you kind of have to fill in the blanks, and you're really working on the basic forms of communicating with somebody. Whereas obviously as an investigator, then you turn into talking more with people and picking up on their body language and certain things like that. And then the victim advocate portion was another aspect to that was really helpful for the investigator part.
Lisa, which were you in?
Well, it's interesting because unlike Audrey. I didn't have a lot of direction about what I wanted to do with my life. I went to college out of high school, got a degree in literature, didn't really know what I was going to do with that. And so I started working first as a temp and then as a permanent employee for then Kingston Hospital in the HR department. And one of my jobs was I maintained our little community board where we put up notices for things going on. And I had a breakup and I was looking for some way to meet new people and you know, kind of establish myself. I'm in Port. I grew up in Pennsylvania. So like I didn't have a lot of family or other people that I was close with in the area. And one of the things I tacked up on the bulletin board was an advertisement for an EMT class. And so I'm like, hey, I can do that. Sounds like a good thing to do.
Kind of like a dating site.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And getting into that really was completely life-changing. So like you said, like, do you think that there was this moment where you went like, had this one decision been different, would my entire life have been different?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it was a wild experience for me because I didn't grow up around public safety. None of my immediate close family members were in fire, law enforcement, or EMS. So my mom once said it was the first thing I did that ever surprised her. So
I don't think you see that a lot either. You don't see a lot of people that are not have some kind of attachment to the first responder realm, you know, get into the field, which is kind of mind blowing. Well, there's so many careers and jobs, and people that just don't have that like attachment to it. How they get into the field.
I'm one of them. I when being a D lineman just didn't pan out. Honestly, having a kid and needing a job, I had one of my best friends got into corrections in '98, and he's like, just fill out the application. And I was in a job I enjoyed, but it wasn't a great paying job. The company I worked for moved away, and it's like, all right, it's benefits, it's definitely the jail. There's always people getting in trouble, so may as well do it. And here I am 25 years later. So it was a super culture shock not being around first responders, cops, firemen. Like nobody in my family ever was until my dad at 38 went to state corrections. So we were both kind of like, all right, this is cool. But you guys have worn so many hats throughout your careers. Has working in the different areas changed the way you look at the entire first responder community?
Yeah, I think obviously coming from both of us with dispatch, you're kind of the person behind the curtain, right? They know who to call, obviously, when they need help, but they don't know that there's actually a living, breathing, working person behind that phone call or all the different hats that they might wear. And especially with you having the medical background, I'm sure that obviously comes in handy with certain medical calls and being able to kind of like pre-diagnose certain things on the phone call.
Yeah, it's really interesting how callers are in general. I do think that having field experience, although not law enforcement, EMS, definitely shapes the way that I interact with people.
Right.
But certainly the expectations of when people call 911, there's a wonderful thing that they made this national emergency number of 911 because it's easy to remember. When you're in a moment and you don't know what to do, you dial 911. But it also means that there's so many expectations on top of that about, you know, what is an emergency to them versus what is an emergency to those who are in public safety, as well as there's just I don't know if you experienced this when you were in Florida, but there's also like a kind of lack of understanding. And I think the media representations have this happen a lot where like they think that you're the person that answered the phone. And so you're going to be the person coming. Right. And so people want to kind of rush you through your process because they think the faster that you get off the phone, the faster they're going to have somebody there. And so I think that kind of tug of war with callers is something that both wears on the caller and wears on the dispatcher because for the most part, and I'm sure it's true for law enforcement as well, for the most part, the people that are asking us for assistance are are not professional callers
Yeah.
or
Right.
professional victims.
Right.
So this may be their first interaction, or it may be different than any interaction that they've had before. And so they don't know the script. They don't know what's supposed to happen. And, like you see J-Lo answer the phone in her call, and she then goes off to somebody's house. And so it's confusing.
Absolutely.
And then there's confusion when the person who answered the phone also volunteers in their local community. And so the person who answered the phone is the person who actually responds. We make them all sorts of confused.
Right. Right. Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off what you said with making that connection on the phone, especially if it's a crisis call or a traumatic call, and making that connection with somebody on the phone, and then, well, what do you mean you're not going to be the one coming here?
Yeah.
And having to kind of then deal with, well, I'm sending you so and so, and they're going to be, talking to you about this, so it's okay to talk to them, and then having to constantly reassess a phone call.
Right. Now you got to turn around and re-explain and process all their thoughts again.
Right. Yeah.
Some of our best dispatchers, and I'm not I have somebody in my head, but I'm not going to shout them out because I don't want them to get upset. But this person is very good about saying, like, hey, the person who's coming, I know who that person in the car is. They're a really good person. You're going to have an easy time, because we have to, when I was the training coordinator, I always said to new dispatchers, like, everything that we do sets up every interaction that comes after.
Absolutely.
If they have a negative interaction with us, we've made it a more unsafe situation for who's ever responding, whether it's law enforcement or fire or EMS.
Yeah.
If we have taken their emotional level and brought it down a notch, and made them feel like, hey, maybe they don't have all the answers right now, but they want to help.
Right.
We've paved the way for that to be a more positive interaction, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right.
And being on the other end of that call, that 3 to 5 minutes, like in the city of Kingston, you're lucky because response is going to be quick. If that 3 to 5 minutes probably seems like 3 to 5 hours to that person, and like you said, you're just trying to get through the questions you need to ask and keep them calm while doing it. It's a whole different level of stress, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If you could make police officers spend one shift in dispatch and dispatch do one ride along with the cop, would you do it?
For me, 100%. And thankfully, we somewhat do this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's happened. We have some of our staff who've been there longer who are like, I didn't get a chance to do it, but we've, wherever possible, try to have people have that experience. Seeing how the other half lives is very important to understanding where they're coming from, what's important to them. Not to mention which geography is huge for dispatchers. And so having them just actually see places that they're not as familiar with is definitely an asset.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I like that our field training program for our new deputies, they spend some time in dispatch, and they can come in and see the literally dozens of screens that you're looking at, and you're like an octopus answering phone calls and radio transmissions and paying cell phones and doing all this thing. And I told the new deputies when I was training them in dispatch, this is the most important person in the agency, whether it's your dispatcher at the sheriff's office or your dispatchers up at 911. And the number one most important thing you can do is figure out what their favorite drink, snack, place to eat is, so that you can make that good connection with them, and then your life will be a whole
Right. Or you're going to be handling that lockout in Hardenburg.
Exactly.
It's also just super important to make the connection with the people that so that it isn't just a number or a voice.
Yes.
Like I know when I started, the people that started at the sheriff's office at about the same time I started at 911, those are people that are still in my head. Like we're a little bit of family, even though we don't work in the same place.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
It's huge. I think it's more important for police officers to go sit at dispatch and even visit County 911 for a shift or half a shift to see what you guys do, because I think there's always been that little disconnect or lack of respect, or why didn't they tell me this, or why did they don't. A lot of these guys don't know it. I mean, I was fortunate enough to do some dispatching in Woodstock, and I sat up on the hill with you guys for a couple shifts to get that experience. But man, it's so important.
Yeah.
We've even had new deps come into the jail
Yeah.
and sit with a CO for a shift to see what it's like
Yeah.
when you're locked in for those
Right.
8 hours.
Right. No sunlight. No
Right,
nothing.
no
yeah.
nothing.
You
It's
don't know
terrible.
what time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what time it is because you get asked 38 times a shift. What day is what time is it? Do you guys feel that there's sometimes like a disconnect that people forget that we're all working towards the same goal?
Yeah. And I think having been in the dispatching fields, you get those callers again that are, well, why aren't you sending them? Why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? And you have both sides to it, right? You have the public calling you, but then you also have your coworkers, whether it's your 911 dispatchers or your fire and EMS people. And it really is working toward a common goal. And as crazy as it sounds, sometimes those really traumatic calls kind of, when they come together, they really come together and they kind of establish that, hey, we're here for a common goal. We're here to make the world a little bit better than the way we left it, kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a silver lining in those really tough calls.
I was just talking to a coworker about this earlier today, but I, in a sense, miss nights. I worked nights for a very long time before I became before I started doing CAD. Even when I was a supervisor, I was on nights. I think nights gets the idea that there's less people around, and so you have to lean on each other and work together a little bit better than days.
Yeah.
I think that's not a knock on days, but just because there's more people around, then I feel like we get a little more factional about things. And it's human nature, right? If somebody on the road is dealing with some sort of stress, like people aren't yielding, they had to watch or they had to interview something where there was a young victim and it's weighing on them. Like, we in dispatch don't know that. All we know is that they're sounding snippy on the radio. And so it's a natural human reaction to be like, well, I didn't do anything to you. Why are you going to do something to me? And I think that that's why I think your question before about should police visit 911 and 911 visit police is really important, because it's super easy when you don't see someone face to face to not think of them as a person, just to think of them as, hey, you're the closest officer. I need you to go take care of this. I'm sorry that you haven't eaten for 11 hours and your kid is sick and what, it's just very easy to kind of depersonalize that. And the more that we can break that down and understand that we're all in it together, I think it's really important.
Yeah.
So, and also to realize that not all of us are 100% on our A game all the time because of those other factors. Like, it's easy
there's life away from it.
Yeah, it's easy for us to think that,
perfect.
hey, I understand what I'm going through today, and maybe I can see that somebody came in to 911 and they're worried about their kids homesick, and I have to get out early, and now people are mad at me because somebody has to come in and work overtime or whatever the situation. But we don't have that same visibility about what's going on with everybody else. And so it's really important for us to kind of realize that we're all human. We have a lot of superhero mentality in public safety, but all of us aren't always our best. And so we need to cut each other some slack and work together.
You did have a dispatcher a long time ago on nights that I really miss. I'm not throwing out any names, but that if somebody was snippy with them, that person let the other person know. they didn't cut them any slack. They didn't, right over the radio. They let them know. Put them right back in their place.
So just you guys give us a brief walkthrough on what happens when a call comes into dispatch. How many different people, entities do you have to contact on an average call?
Well, I know for us, I'm not sure how it was in Florida, but our 911 center handles all the calls for the county, from landlines, cell phones, text, for people who don't know about that. And so anything could be anything, right? I said before that people are lucky in that they have this 3-digit number that they can remember easily. And so it can literally be anything. It could be something as simple as I don't know the phone number for this. which is not really something we prefer that people call 911 for. But, to the person calling, it's an emergency to them because they need something and they don't know how to meet that need. And they need somebody to take control of the situation and figure it out. So it could be a call for information where it's simply we handle the situation and that's all there is to it. It could be something where somebody needs a report for something and we just get them connected with the appropriate agency. And so it's a one agency thing, all the way up to, incidents that may involve not only law enforcement, EMS and fire, but mental health resources, crisis negotiators, to the drone team, to all sorts of specialty resources. It may involve outside agencies like the Red Cross, or if it's so it might involve utilities. It might involve, if it's, we've seen in the news a couple of times lately, people always really like to go hiking when the weather's bad, or when it's nighttime or winter.
In flip-flops.
Like we'll work with the Rangers or the DEC or DEP, or like there's all these teams that become involved in operations. We have special rescue teams, rope rescue, confined spaces. We do a lot with the local corrections facilities, but whether it's state corrections, county. So it really can involve all different facets of response, including the hospitals, everything.
It's a never-ending list.
Yeah.
Realistically, I mean, you have inter-county mutual aid. Greene County, Dutchess, you guys have to deal with that as well.
Yeah.
If 911 got a call for civil unrest, public disturbance of mass proportions, can you recommend dispatch of like the countywide CERT team? How does that go?
Usually, for that, we would interact with the sheriff's office we don't have the specialization. It's not 911's job to kind of micromanage other agencies' response teams. It's to know what resources are out there and activate. So kind of a simpler version of that would be that we have a dive team in our county that is supplemented by the sheriff's dive team. And so like when we get a call where we need that resource, we're getting in touch with the sheriff's office. We're dispatching the fire department resources. The state police sometimes dive as well. So like coordinating those special teams, we're making the reach out, but we wouldn't want to take responsibility for the sheriff's office having the depth of knowledge of what their teams are capable of and what they need. We do have a little bit more interaction with it now with the City of Kingston's tactical EMS response that goes with the CERT team. So we have interaction with it, but I wouldn't want to say we're not the primary on that usually.
And that's how we run up the command post anyway, or the command for us.
So it's more, here's the situation. These are the services we may need. EMD, emergency medical dispatch. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's kind of my baby, although it was Michael Beninati's baby before it was mine. So I cannot take credit for the program. He gets all the credit for that. But it's definitely something that we use very extensively. And also it's kind of evolving and changing. I'm sure some of our local EMS providers, Chief Matt Goodnow from New Paltz Rescue has been publicizing it a lot, Lise Benjamin from Diaz, but it's not a surprise to anybody that EMS resources are not what they once were. Volunteerism as a whole is on a decline, and trying to get the right resource to the right place is huge. And so our EMD program last year, and we're in the middle of finishing up our next revision of it this year, is trying to make sure that we don't oversend resources that that we don't have enough of, particularly ALS, but transporting ambulances as well.
Yeah.
And so we have looked at the changing fields and said we need to change to accommodate that. So EMD really is the process of making sure that, first of all, we triage calls appropriately to send the right resources. That's that piece of it. But the other thing this is the reason we try to get people not to rush us off the phone, is all of our EMD certified dispatchers, which is everyone who answers a phone call at 911. We don't let new trainees answer calls until they're EMD certified. They are trained to give pre-arrival instructions, and that's everything from, and these are things that happened this year. This is not like a once in a lifetime thing, from delivering babies to treating chest pain until somebody gets there, to somebody who has injured themselves who needs a tourniquet and doesn't have one available. We have instructions that we give people, and they've been given within the past month. Yeah. Like, this is our season of, people hurting themselves outside, doing things. And so
if you worked the fair, that's
yeah.
which the three of us were standing there sweating profusely.
Yes.
It was a hot
yeah.
week.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not gonna keep somebody on the phone if we don't have something to offer them. Mm-hmm. But if we can keep somebody on the phone and give them instructions that are gonna help manage that situation until somebody can physically be with them, that's the best case scenario for the best possible outcome.
The psychological component that's involved, you're dealing with people that are potentially going through some of the worst moments of their life. How difficult is that for you to leave that at the end of the call, gather yourself, and move on to the next?
It's interesting because different people have different thresholds for what does and doesn't bother them. I think for some people, who, particularly those who've been doing it for a long time, the less serious calls almost bother them more because it's the, I'm spending time doing this, somebody else might really need me. And so I feel like they step up to those higher level calls. However, that being said, everybody has something that's their line, right? For a lot of people, that's calls involving children. For a lot of people, that might be something like a sexual assault. For almost everybody involved in any part of public safety, calls involving injury or death or someone in danger that's in public safety is huge. So anything that involves a responder of any kind, and I include dispatchers in that, those are close to home. And then there's always, just a call that's too close to what's going on in your own life. So like, if somebody has experienced domestic violence and they take a call that seems too close to it, or somebody has a kid who's homesick and now somebody calls and or somebody has an older parent that they're taking care of that's starting to show signs of dementia, and now somebody's calling because they're in a panic that they can't find their family member who wandered, So it's what the call is can vary for people as much as how people deal with it afterwards. Some people are very good at letting the majority of things kind of roll off their back and just be like, on to the next. We had somebody who at 911 who said, nothing bothers me. I don't believe that to be true, having worked with this individual for several years, but there is this, there are calls you take home. And I know I have, there's calls in EMS, there's calls in dispatch that there are ones that stick with you and don't go away. And I think the hard part for people is when you kind of build up several of those over the years, because that the less resilient you become to the next thing that might not even escalate to that level. Right. So I think the cumulative stuff is as important as the high profile.
It's easier to get triggered too.
Yes.
After that, eventually it's going to catch up with you.
Right.
We've all been doing this job a while.
And that's our killer. That's why our life expectancy is so short. Stress.
Right.
the toll it takes on your body over time, in your mind over time, is it's crazy.
And the public perception of not realizing, like, especially dispatch with all the trauma and that you guys are filtering out to everybody. It starts there. Like, it starts right there on the hill. Like, people don't realize that.
I think it's great how much attention is being paid to it now. I know, like, dispatcher stress was not something that was ever talked about for a long time. And a lot of people in the field now connect via social media. And there's a dispatcher group that I follow, and I know a lot of my coworkers do as well. And they've been keeping a tally this year, and they're up to 12 dispatcher suicides this year that are known to this group. That doesn't mean that there isn't more, but like, it's just alarming that it's something that people are going through, and it's been something that people haven't really talked about, you know? And so I'm glad that there's agencies like the Wellness Agency, that there's social media where people can reach out to others that are in a similar situation. We work 24/7, right? Not me personally, even though
Sounds like you
do.
But you know, that it's nice to have people who can connect to that, to people who are in that same situation, because I think that really helps people who are responders to have that kind of authentic connection to somebody who doesn't know your individual experience, but knows the shared experience of being in public safety.
It's our biggest, that's our biggest reason to start up this podcast, like to get the information out, to try to reach out and touch somebody and share the stories and say, oh, there's a dispatcher, there's a detective, there's there's a deputy. They all share the same kind of, they've all been through some kind of traumatic event, and that it's real and that it's okay to talk about it, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's
Audrey, you do one of the most difficult jobs, not only in first responder world, but I would imagine in general, with the Child Advocacy Center. Tell us a little bit about that.
The Child Advocacy Center is what we call an MDT agency, so it's a multidisciplinary team where, for the most part, law enforcement works with CPS, and we investigate various cases of child abuse, child neglect, child sexual abuse, and obviously there's a lot that goes into it on the law enforcement side, on the CPS side, and then when we work on cases together. I hear that from people every single day. I don't know how you do that job. I have kids at home. I don't have kids at home. I have kids in my life. Whatever your personal situation is, I think we can all agree that crimes against children are the worst calls to investigate and the most important calls to investigate.
What's the most important thing as the investigator that you can provide a child while you're working through the case?
I think the most important thing you can provide a child is, strangely, just like for anybody, but just kind of being a listening platform for them. Recognizing that children especially can be really resilient until they're not, similar to EMS, where a kid can be okay and then all of a sudden they just take a nosedive. Same thing with how trauma affects people, but also children differently. And recognizing that children have different ways of communicating, of expressing their needs, and you don't necessarily need to be a caretaker for that child to see something's not right. Let me adjust my viewpoint. Let me adjust how I can maybe take care of this, maybe get some resources, so that at the end of the day, even if an arrest isn't made, making that child's life a little bit better is, of course, the end goal.
Do you find it more difficult to gain the trust of a child?
Personally, not really, but I can see how that's an area where some people might not feel comfortable. It's easier, but it's complicated because our training that we have to go to is the child forensic interviewing. And there's a very specific way that we have to interview children. Whereas if you interview an adult, you can be a little bit more forthcoming with it, or a little bit more direct. With a child, it's really important to go into it and create a gentle, safe space for them so that they feel that they can trust you to tell you. Even if it may not necessarily be the case that you have, you might open a whole can of worms with them just by asking a question of, tell me what happened at home today, and they can lay out this whole horror story of things that are happening to them that you would have never asked if you didn't develop that basic line of trust with them.
So when they say handle it with kid gloves, this is really what it means.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some misconceptions that the general public might have about child abuse investigations?
I think specifically for our CAC, it's a very unknown agency in a very unknown part of the county. Because I'll tell people, oh, I work for the CAC. What is that? What do you do? Where are you? Right? So the CAC is under the umbrella of the district attorney's office, but obviously there's different law enforcement agencies and then CPS that works on it as well. So I think the misconception is that if a child abuse report comes in, that there's going to be nobody to investigate it, where it's actually quite the opposite. We have a really great team of investigators, again, that work alongside CPS. We have a crime victim advocate in our office who has a wealth of knowledge and resources that they can prescribe to a family in need, that we do have a unit that investigates these reports. And when I say they're investigated, they are investigated. It's not just another checkbox on the checklist. It's we take these cases seriously and we investigate them to how far they need to be investigated.
What's the definition of trauma-informed interviewing?
Trauma-informed interviewing is kind of like I said before with the checkbox, that it's not just coming into a victim and saying, tell me what happened, tell me where it happened, tell me all this. It's recognizing that trauma affects the brain in many different ways. Recognizing that just because maybe a rape victim or a rape survivor waited X amount of days to come forward, that's not a negative on that survivor. That's how their brain is processing things. They may not have actually realized what happened to me is not okay, what happened to me is illegal, and that the brain takes time to process certain things. And the trauma-informed interviewing is probably one of, if not the most important interviewing skills that I think people that work in this field need to have, whether it's from dispatch to the deputies and officers that work the road, to EMTs, to detectives, that recognizing people process things a certain way, people communicate different ways. You may need to have 5, 6, 7 interviews with a survivor before you finally have everything you need to have your case go forward, that they can't be rushed, that they might need a victim advocate by their side to take them to the hospital, that you need to be patient and empathetic and understanding that their situation needs certain things from you.
In our diversion training that we do for 911, we have a concept I'm sure is very familiar to you, which is the universal assumption of trauma.
Yes.
So like in EMS, we have universal precautions,
Right.
which is this idea that you can't tell by looking at somebody what infections they might have. So we treat everybody like they're potentially infectious. So this universal assumption of trauma is that you can't tell by looking at somebody. Obviously, there's a high profile case going on right now, and that's very much at the center of it, is like, can you tell by looking at somebody that they're functioning well, that they're handling their stress?
Yes.
Just because they smile and make dinner, that doesn't mean that they're doing okay. So this idea of universal assumption of trauma is like, you won't know everything that they're going through. No matter how forthcoming they're trying to be, it can be so overwhelming that it informs their process of being able to go through things.
Yes. And I think equally important is that, like you said before, we have this superhero aspect to ourselves and to each other, and important to stay away from the assumption and the mindset of, oh, well, if that happened to me, I wouldn't have taken it that way. I wouldn't have been affected that way. That's their house only burned down. Why are they acting like it's the end of the world? Well, you don't know what happened to them. You don't know what their past was. You don't know what their traumatic maybe upbringing was. So to be, like you said, that universal assumption that everybody's going through something, and to just be really understanding of that.
Have you had moments during working with children that you've actually had this, I need to take a break and step out of the room because this is now affecting me?
Yes.
And I need to guide it myself.
Yes, absolutely. And I actually just came back from maternity leave, so I completely did a 180 almost with everything from physically, mentally, emotionally, to obviously I have everybody pretty much has kids in their lives, but now putting on that mom hat of, oh, that's why people tell me, I don't know how you work in this unit, because this is how I would handle things, because you really, as a parent, can completely understand why certain people maybe can't work in this field and that unit. And that's why I say, for me personally, it's important that whoever works at the CAC, again, whether it's the LE or the CPS side, understands the importance of the work and has a real true passion for it. You're going to get affected, you're going to take some of the calls home, but being able to compartmentalize and say, okay, from these hours I have to go in and do my job, and then I'm going to go home and cuddle my baby and do whatever I need to do to get myself back in that.
I'm sure your own internal monologue has changed.
Slightly, yeah. Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
We got to keep those inside thoughts as inside thoughts and not let them come out. Yeah.
Now, you're also trained as a crisis negotiator.
Yes.
Is crisis negotiation more about talking or listening?
It's absolutely more about listening. Our little catchphrase is talk to me. But how do you get somebody to talk to you? Are they going to talk to you? If you're talking to them, they're not going to be able to talk to you. So it's about, again, creating that connection, creating that foundation, and being that empathetic listener and taking things in and figuring out, okay, got it. This is a red flag. This is what I put in my don't column. Don't talk to them about these things. This seemed to kind of perk them up a little bit. Let me go more into that.
For all of us, I'm sure, sympathy can destroy the conversation, because that's really not what they want to hear at that point. Empathy is the important point. How do you stay empathetic in a situation that is screwed up?
Yeah. It kind of goes back to that universal assumption of trauma and that trauma-informed interviewing skill set, is that knowing people process things different ways and knowing that you don't know what they're going through. So if they tell you something and you say, oh, I understand, you absolutely 100% do not understand, because you are not that person going through that situation being affected by that in that way. So the empathy side of it is, I can understand that. I can understand how that would make you feel that way, how that would make you feel upset or worried or whatever the word is that you want to use. And one of the things that I like about crisis negotiation is something that we call labeling. Our person in crisis says something and we say, oh, it sounds like you're upset. And it's a really great tool, because it can kind of go one of two ways. They can say, yeah, I am upset. And they go on about something else that you can use. Or they say, absolutely not, I'm not upset, I'm pissed. And by them being able to label their own emotions and having that autonomy of, no, this is what I'm feeling, or yes, this is what I'm feeling, you're creating so many different connections with them, and that you can your conversation can explode and you can really get a lot of good information that way.
And you're there to address the person, not the alleged crime.
Right.
So
yes,
that doesn't really even come into play when you're going in and discussing this with this individual.
Right. And you kind of have to change your hats and say, okay, I'm not a detective in this moment. I'm a crisis negotiator. I need to figure out not what the crime is that occurred, but how I can relate to this person and get this whole situation figured out safely. Yeah.
Now, Lisa, other than all your extensive trainings in career and emergency services, you grew up around psychology and mental health because both your parents were psychologists.
That's true.
How did your parents' careers influence your approach to people in crisis?
Well, I guess first of all is we talk a lot when we're talking about mental health about the idea that, there's a stigma behind mental health. Mm-hmm. And so for me, like being around it my whole life, maybe I didn't so much have that stigma towards other people having issues. The other thing is that one of the things that we go over with people is this idea, like we talk about mental health or mental health emergencies, and people have this idea that this is people who have like these diagnosed psychiatric disorders or something like that. And everybody has mental health, right? Mm-hmm. Like even people who don't have mental health disorders can have poor mental health. I mean, we know people who cope badly with things and do destructive things that may not have a diagnosable psychiatric disorder, but they have poor mental health. And we likewise probably know someone who has struggled with mental illness and has figured out how to manage that and has good mental health. So I think growing up around that kind of had some of that in my head. Growing up, my mom's office, she had private practice, was actually in our home. So, I got to see people from all different walks of life, all different types of people walk in and out. So I didn't have like this concept that somebody who needed help looked or was a certain way. So I think that was one way that it influenced me. And I also think that it made me more comfortable with talking about feelings like that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, we had a board game when I was little called the Talking, Thinking, Feeling, and Doing game or something like that. Like, I'm pretty sure nobody else's game closet had it at home.
I'm looking on Amazon for that.
I think we
But
need that.
also, so my mom worked in private practice, but my dad was an executive director of a county mental health center. And he also talked about the importance of ways to deal with people who were mentally ill. So as a county program, they had a much more diverse patient population. My mom did more individual or couples counseling. And like they did things like a horticultural therapy program or an occupational therapy program. And the idea behind those was that sometimes the best way to recover or the best way to manage your symptoms of something isn't to sit around and just talk about doing it. It would be to do something that felt productive and useful. I think that's really relevant to public safety because I think a lot of us are attracted to these professions because we want to help others because we're kind of trying to help heal ourselves as well. And so the idea that, I know the wellness program does things like hiking or getting together, but the act of doing something and being with other people is healing. It doesn't have to be about sitting down and talking about your feelings. Like I feel like public safety people, that turns a lot of people off. The idea of like trying to explain where they're coming from or trying to get somebody, like you said, empathy is this idea that like, I can understand why you would feel that way, or I understand what that feeling is like. But like having somebody that's kind of outside of public safety, it's hard to trust that they really do have any understanding of what we're going through because they don't deal with it. So this idea of like my dad's programs of, hey, like maybe I can't talk to people and let people in, but we can grow things and I can see results of my actions that give me positive feedback. Or we have a cleaning crew and I can make a small income and I can't go work at, a Fortune 500 company, or I can't be a police officer, but like I can do something that helps me meet my basic needs. So I'm worth something. Like, I think that's important to people. And so I think that's part of where my parents come from in terms of influence on me. Also, my mom became a first responder when she retired to Florida because she said if I could do it, anybody could do it. Super nice. But she did. She was a first responder. She rode on the ambulance. Now she's a dispatcher for her volunteer squad. And she's the head of her, she's the co-head of her peer support team for her ambulance squad. And she came up and we went to a conference together on responder mental health. So she's still, she's amazing. I was going to say something else, but I know we're recording, so I don't want to. But yeah, just so like my parents both really inspired me to, even though they weren't in public safety per se, they inspired me to say like, hey, we've got to make a difference. We've got to try and help make each other's lives easier because life is tough.
As Mike and I got to know each other and developed our friendship and started working on the podcast together, one of the main goals of the podcast is to break down the stigma of mental health in the first responder community. How have you guys dealt with that?
It's not easy, right? And it's a never-ending challenge because we keep going back to the superhero mentality of I'm fine until I'm not. And I really like the idea of changing our viewpoint of, okay, maybe this won't work, of sitting down and talking about our feelings, but let's branch that into working and doing something. Because I think another common characteristic of people in this job is we're always helping, we're always doing things. So it's really hard to sit down and do nothing. So if I can expend that energy into something that's productive, whether it's growing something, helping someone, volunteering, and we make the world a better place in our own way, but it's really easy to just kind of box that off and leave that there. Whereas if we can change our viewpoint of, okay, I make the world a better place this way, but I can also do it in a different way that makes me feel good, there's nothing wrong with that, because we also kind of make that selfishness of, well, I have too much going on, there's so much bad stuff happening in the world, I can't dictate that time to myself to feel better. You can and you should, because the better you are, the better you're going to do your job, the better you're going to make your work environment, and the happier your coworkers are going to be. It really just all kind of blossoms from there. Yeah.
Again, coming from the EMS perspective, that, like anybody that's been in any sort of CFR, EMT class knows the first rule is scene safety. And when we talk about scene safety, it's you have to make sure this scene is safe for you first, because if it's not and you become another patient, you haven't helped the situation.
Right.
And I think it's the same kind of concept. Like, you're not going to have anything to give if your reserve is low.
Right.
I also think that the idea of seeing others who are in the same profession, your coworkers, people you respect, and understanding that they've been through something and how they came through it can be more helpful than just kind of like a checklist of self-care things, right? Because like people absolutely in public safety, I don't know if you experience this, but people are like self-care, like I don't like self-care, but then they'll tell you that they jog or they garden or they do like, and it's like, that's it.
Self-care.
Like right away.
But they ain't saying the word, but they're already doing it.
Yes.
But this idea that like you see people who you think of as like, so we talk about like kind of the tough guy or like the suck it up mentality in public safety. Seeing people that sort of in one way embody that, but then learning what they've done to take care of themselves is really key. Again, don't want to throw any names out there, but we have somebody at our 911 center who has been very open about their mental health challenges, and that they continue to, when things get bad, seek out help and talks openly about that. Who's so of an older generation, and I say that not meaning that like I'm of the older generation now. Like I don't mean that like, but hearing that person talk so openly about their journey and saying how important it is and how they wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for that, like that has made several other people reach out for help that I don't think would have otherwise.
I think that's fully what has to happen. More of that has to come forward to really fully turn the tide. When you see the grizzled vet is the one that's reaching out for the help and spreading the good word of, hey, this is good for you. If it can help me, it can help anybody. And then people are more accepting of it. Mike and I have talked about it before. The younger generation, the new hires at the jail, they've dealt with SROs, they've dealt with guidance counselors. They're so much more geared to look for and accept the help. So it's becoming less having to deal with them and more focus on the people that are getting towards retirement. And hey, you just endured 20 years of shit. We got to get you help so you can actually enjoy your retirement. But to wrap up the dispatch segment, what should supervisors be looking for with their staff to help them avoid the burnout, avoid the pitfalls?
I think that supervisors in general, at least at our center, I can't speak to anybody else's, but we have 4 groups. And people do work overtime or people call out sick, but our 4 groups essentially spend more time together with each other than they do with their families or, or their friends outside of work, right? They're spending 84 hours every 2 weeks together at bare minimum, right? Like that's a lot of time. And so I think looking at each other and knowing how people usually deal with things.
Yes.
And if you see things that are different, everybody can have an off day, but if you're seeing an off day, first of all, there's no harm in just because it's one off day, being compassionate and being, willing to reach out and just make sure, hey, is there anything that we can do to make it easier? There's no need to turn one bad day into several, right? Like we could just, and also knowing your people and what works for them, right? Like not everybody is going to be receptive to, hey, how are you doing today? So, again, growing up with psychologist parents, like my parents told me about the HALT principle, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And the idea is like, okay, maybe we feed that person, or maybe the idea is the more of those that we're dealing with, the less likely we're going to be resilient to things. So you can make somebody less lonely by being approachable, by reaching out. You can make somebody less hungry by feeding them. You can let somebody vent because maybe that's what they need. Maybe they're just bottling up and they just need to step away and spew about whatever's going on. If somebody is not sleeping and they're tired and they just look like, you can offer them an out, like, hey, do you need us to get somebody else here? Is there something else going on? Like you didn't sleep all night because your kid was up sick or like whatever. But having that relationship with your staff of knowing what their norm is, we don't need to expect people to be like a random person's like, this is a healthy, normal dispatcher. Like you need to know what their normal is and if they're deviating from it. And is there a reason, and is there something that we can do? Like Audrey said, I think the most important thing we can do is listen, right? Like, and if you notice that somebody's withdrawing and they're not willing to, then you need to flag it and see if you can get them some help. Because I know that and if any of my coworkers are listening to this, they're like, oh, I hate listening to Lisa talk this much. So I'm not going to be the right person for everybody to listen, right? But maybe somebody else is. Maybe I can say like, hey, this person usually hangs out with this person. Do you know if something's going on? Could you maybe reach out and just make sure they're doing okay? I'm worried. I care.
That's why we have peers, right?
Exactly.
That's why we have a plethora.
And that brings us into the next point is the four of us have been blessed enough in our career to have peer support training. Audrey, what do you think makes a good peer supporter?
Kind of backpacking off of what Lisa said, it's knowing your people, and you may not know that person specifically, and that might be an advantage to some point, is having that truly neutral third party of, great, this person knows nothing about me, there's no prejudices, there's nothing that they're going to kind of tack on to this conversation beforehand, and I can really just spew my guts out and tell what's going on. But there's also an advantage to, like you said, with the supervisor aspect of, I'm the boss, I might not be the best person to talk to this person. Hey, I know that this person has peer support, or this is their go-to person. I'm going to have them tag team it and say, you need to go talk to them and kind of get them figure it out. Let me know if we need more resources, kind of thing. It sounds funny, but the food thing is really honestly true. We do a lot of our jobs around the dinner table, so to speak. There's a lot of networking and problem solving that comes out around that. So sometimes if you just bring somebody out of the office to a neutral third party, I do that, or a third place, I do that with some of my survivors, that bringing them into the police station, they're not going to want to talk to me. They're going to want to claim up. Cool. Let's go out for coffee. Let's go out to the park. Let's go on a walk. Let's move and kind of figure out how we need to do things. So
who doesn't like food, by the way?
And who doesn't like food? Exactly. Right. That's what I tell people.
It's like such a bonding thing. Like,
exactly.
It doesn't matter. You bring food in, you're going to bond.
You bring Mike poutine, he's going to bond with you.
I am going to.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I know our groups, that one of our supervisors who's retiring soon bought a grill smoker combo. Because we used to have a lot of tradition of cooking on the weekends together as groups and trying to bring that back.
Right.
That's cool.
Right. It kind of goes into that love language of like the acts of service, and knowing that, okay, everyone's had a crazy week. Let's bring the grill out. I know that Mike likes ribs, and you like chicken. You like your black bean burgers cooked whatever way. It's I eat black bean burgers, so
Okay.
I had to put that in there. But just knowing your people and knowing that you can kind of make a situation better, even if it's
So
something
I
as
know-
simple as food.
I know when I made a mistake
Yeah.
on the road, and I was maybe, and I don't think I did it very much, but if I was snippy with 911, I would always I'd
Yes.
make it a point to stop up there, and I'd bring them food.
Mhm.
Like, let's make amends. I apologize for my mistakes or my
Right.
words. Or
If you want to
whatever.
make friends in the jail, drop
Oh,
off
yeah.
Voices ice cream sandwiches,
We
and
just had those
they
yesterday.
will forever love
That's
you.
perfect.
When I was still in EMS, when I worked for Alamo, we used to not have a lot to do because we didn't have a lot of volume in Ulster County, and so we would go to Voices and bring the dispatchers ice cream and milkshakes.
Yeah.
That was my first
I
exposure
did
to the
pickles. I
911.
always went down and got pickles for like there was an Audrey festival. I'd go down and buy a bunch of pickles and bring them up
Yeah.
at the request of a couple. People.
See, knowing your people. Yeah.
If you're going to throw your trainer hat on for a minute, in your training peer supporters, what's the number one do not do this?
I think it sounds pretty simple and straightforward, but the confidentiality. I think obviously acting on that act of confidentiality and not going and blabbing everybody's business, but making sure that your peer knows that if I know somebody's a blabbermouth, I'm not gonna, peer support or not, I'm not gonna talk to them, I'm not gonna work them in my personal situations, but maybe thinking back of, hey, that rumor went around and that person wasn't really a part of that. Maybe I can have that level of trust with them. Because you can kind of do a peer support thing and put the Band-Aid on and think everything's okay, but if that level of trust really isn't there, it's, I don't want to say a waste, but you're really just kind of spinning the wheel again and hoping that whatever you throw at it sticks. So knowing that that person can absolutely trust you to that level of degree, and also, hey, reach out if you need anything. We all say it, but knowing that someone actually means that, and following up with a text or sending a funny, GIF or a text or a link or something, trying to get your person up and just really being that dependable person for them, I think is huge.
Yeah. I would say, walking that fine line of being empathetic and validating their feelings without gaslighting them,
Oh, yes.
because I've seen that turn awful numerous times throughout my career. And it's almost, you're trying to rally the person to be resilient, but it's so counterproductive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if they're not in that mindset to be rallied yet. And again, that just kind of goes with knowing your person of, we're not there yet, but maybe in a couple of days we can try to.
Well, like
do
you said,
something.
listening is the most
Yeah.
important thing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of us in public safety are fixers by
Yes.
design.
Yes.
And so particularly, like, I know when we take 911 calls, like our goal is to take like the broad, like, this could be anything when I answer the phone, to like, okay, what category am I putting this in? What resources I'm sending? And so we tend to like get into tunnel and fix mode. And like, it's kind of the exact opposite in peer support, that you can't, you can't
Right.
fix it.
Right.
And when people hear you try, like, I know we talked about the gender issue about us being here as women, but I know like there's always this idea that like, oh, well, if you tell a man your problems, that, they're going to try and fix it and not just be the listener that you need them to be. And I don't really believe that that's a man-woman thing, but I think that like,
Maybe husband, wife. But.
I think it's a job hazard for us that we do. We're always trying to, manage the outcome, or we're trying to, as a crisis negotiator, you're trying to like get the situation safe so that that person can get what they need, whether that's to be, taken into custody or get them a resource or something like that. But like, when we are so focused on fixing in our regular job duties, it's hard to remember that sometimes if somebody's reaching out to us who knows all that stuff, like they're doing the same thing in their everyday job. They just need us to be there. Like they just need us to take a step back, hear them, let them know that they're not alone.
Right.
and that you're happy that they're sharing something with you.
Mhm.
And that you know that you can't make it better, but you want it to be better, that they don't feel alone in whatever they're going through.
When you've
Yeah.
gone from trying to help a situation to manipulate a situation
Mhm.
because you feel helpless,
Mhm.
now you're hurting more than one person, you're hurting
Right.
yourself too. So
Right. Yeah.
taking the job home with you, we all do it at some point, whether it's a bad call, a bad incident in jail. What are some things that you've realized about yourself from these bad calls or bad incidents?
Mm. I think that realizing, of course, that we're all human and that things are just like people, things affect our survivors and patients different ways, that they affect us different ways too, and kind of recognizing that if you go through a really bad call and say, wow, that was really bad, but I'm not as affected as I thought I would be, and then kind of similar to what you were saying, that then the small call comes up, and then all of a sudden you're having these reactions. You're realizing that maybe they're connected, maybe they're not, but kind of checking in with yourself and realizing that, like we say, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to reach out for help, and especially having those close connections with people, knowing that, oh, hey, Audrey's calling me today. She doesn't usually call me. I should kind of clue into this. Every time he calls me, it's what do you need? But I do ask, what do you need, right?
Yep.
So I'm trying to be helpful, but recognizing that if somebody's calling me, maybe I need to put a different viewpoint on this and say, maybe there's a different reason for this.
You get a different response from him if you would call him, because if it's a guy calling, it's,
Yeah.
hey fella.
Hey fella, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
That's so funny. I should try that.
yeah.
Then I'll freak him out. I'll
Yeah.
answer and say, hey fella, what's wrong?
I get
You
nervous
okay?
when she calls me.
Yeah,
too.
right.
I'm like, oh God, what happened?
So teaching next generation, do you think you can teach empathy, or is it something that has to be in a person?
I think you can teach it. I think that there's certain innate qualities. You know, it can be really simple as obviously somebody that's committed a bad crime can't be a law enforcement officer, but knowing your limits sort of thing, like same thing with knowing the person you can go to, you know, knowing, oh, this person's on the dive team, this person's on the drone team, just kind of, you know, assessing things and knowing who to go to, or maybe if that's why I like working in detectives, is we're usually partnered up with somebody, and people always think it's the good cop bad cop thing, and we can do that and kind of play off of each other. But what I like is we'll come together after an interview or a big case and say, hey, I really liked that you did this, but I wasn't really keen on how you talked to this person or how you phrased this question. So same thing with the empathy part of, hey, that was a bit more of a sympathetic thing. This could have been more empathetic. And in the crisis negotiation field, not to air out all our secrets, but we have the primary negotiator and then they have the coach. And that's, nobody talks to the primary negotiator. Everything goes through the coach, because that primary negotiator's focus is who they're talking to, the person in need, the person in crisis. So that coach needs to also clue in and say, you know, writing the red flags up on the board, don't talk about this. Yes, talk about that. And again, kind of cluing in on that and saying, you're getting a little too attached to the situation, kind of pull yourself out, be more empathetic versus the sympathetic.
What's something that you wish you were taught at the very beginning that you may know now?
Do you have one that you can think on it? No pressure.
Because there's no better experience than life experience.
Yeah, right. I kind of always joke but it's serious, that our frontal lobes aren't fully developed until we're 25, 26 years old. And this is a big field to get into at 18, 19, 20 years old. And it kind of goes two different ways, because if somebody's younger applying for this field, not discounting them just because they're younger, because they may have a lot of life experience, but that also recognizing that if somebody is of an older age, if that's late 20s, early 30s, which is old in this field, I know, recognizing that they may not have that maturity, they may not have that experience, and keying in on, oh, okay, they may need some more experience in different types of calls.
I went to the academy when I was 32, so
Same.
Yeah.
So I was
I'm
right
I
at,
turned 30 in
I
the
think-
academy.
I started at
Yeah.
25, so
I'm
had the
matured
full
at about
frontal lobe
40
developed,
ish.
So I think
TBD.
but I'm still 10.
for we were talking about how you could be multiple ages at the
Yes,
same time
yes.
before, but I think I didn't really know what I was walking into as a dispatcher. So I was working in EMS. Like you said, I enjoyed what I was doing. I didn't really think about 911 as a career. And the test came up at that point. This is civil service. And I took it kind of thinking like, oh, maybe, when my back and my knees and everything are starting to give out, it'd be a good thing for the future. And I scored well and got called, and it was kind of like a whirlwind. And I didn't even really have a good concept of what that job was.
Right.
But I think something I got taught in my original EMT class that I think is also relevant to the conversation of can you teach empathy is part of what we do is we need to have people buy into us, right? Like they need to, whether it's a child who needs to feel like you're a safe person to talk to and they can tell you anything, or whether it's a 911 dispatcher who needs the person who's feeling suicidal to know that we're going to listen and we're going to try and work through it with them, or whether it's EMS when you show up at their door and you're in your volunteer squad, so you're wearing t-shirts and a pair of jeans, and you have to get them to buy into the fact that you're there to help. So what was taught to me in my original EMT class is sometimes you have to fake it to make it. So if you have to get them to buy into your bag of tricks. Shout out to my original EMT teacher. But the idea is that like, can we teach empathy? So when we do diversion training for mental health emergencies, we had our training by a Broome County person who spearheaded this program. And they gave us empathetic statements that we have laminated on the back of our checklist. So when you're not feeling on your A game for your ability to be empathetic or connect to people, like you had these go-to statements. So of course, being the people that we are, because all dispatchers have just fantastic senses of humor. Our staff tried to use as many in one conversation as they possibly could when we first got them. I think that we try to teach people how to recognize what's empathy, what's sympathy. But sometimes it's just about faking it until you make it. So maybe by nature you're a quieter person and you're not as good as kind of teasing things out, or maybe you're like me where you are just super talkative and you need to remember to let other people get a word in edgewise. So I think we can to some extent teach it. Some people may be better equipped kind of by their personalities for it, but I don't think that makes them more genuine than somebody who comes later to it. Sometimes, like we said, sometimes the grizzled old veteran who isn't a touchy-feely emotional person is going to ring more real and more true to somebody. And that's what empathy is, connection, right? So if they can connect to somebody who's more like them, that's better than somebody who's following the catchphrases on the back of our little laminated sheet. So hopefully the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll move into the rapid fire round.
No cheating.
No more serious stuff. Yeah, no cheating. Don't read. But no overthinking the answers. So I'll start off, and you ladies answer. Number one: coffee or energy drink?
Coffee.
Yeah.
All right.
Energy drinks are bad for you.
Early shift or late shift?
Late. I hate waking up. I miss
Yep.
nights.
Me too.
Yeah.
4 to 12s for.
You already elaborated on it.
I liked
think we're all late
working
shifting.
late, but now I'm old and early works better for me.
Fair.
All right. The police radio or the EMS radio?
EMS radio because no, I lied. Police radio. I like police radio and call taking best of any dispatch because those are always going to be the two busiest. Because if EMS is busy, police are busy too.
Sure. I'd say EMS because they're probably nicer on the radio than the cops are. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah.
Best first responder snack.
I mean, I'm a cop, so I have to say donuts. It's like in my contract.
Okay.
We're trying to do healthier snacks. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're savory people. Like we're like popcorn, French fries, granola bars.
Popcorn's good.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Worst first responder snack.
I'm gonna get a lot of flack for mine and say pizza. I always think of George Hill because we had pizza once. He didn't eat. I said, "George, you eating?" He goes, "No, I'm sick of pizza. Every bad call, every crazy call, everybody sends pizza, and you just kind of get sick of it." So I have to agree now. Being into it,
Pizza
I love
so
it too.
much.
But yeah,
Actually, I'd go back and re-answer. Favorites are Chinese and pizza. But worse, I don't know. Like, I'm not my coworkers would completely disagree with this, but like I'm not a like super sugary.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like
so no donuts.
I love donuts.
I'm a-
But
I'm
like
definitely a
No
salty.
candy bars.
but
or
like
anything
like
that.
like sugary candy. for
Yeah.
me, like Jolly Ranchers and stuff like that. It's not.
Yeah.
Like,
Favorite snack on midnights was and totally not good for you.
Quick check.
Quick check mac and cheese with the crunchy Cheetos, and then you crush them up and put them in the mac and cheese.
What about the hot pretzels?
can you come work with us and
The
teach
hot
us your
pretzels.
Yeah, right.
secrets?
All the snack secrets.
The
Yes.
hot pretzels,
Hot pretzels.
the
Awesome.
braided hot pretzels
Yeah.
from there are
But the thing about
Legit.
dispatchers, thank goodness for like DoorDash and Uber Eats. It's
Mhm.
better than it was. But
Yeah.
when I worked midnights,
Oh,
like the only
Rough.
thing you could get
Yeah.
was
It's
Domino's,
Domino's
and it was
before 1
only
a.m.
the weekends.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
I also love that all of our tangent conversations have been around food. Like, really good to know. I love that.
We drink a lot of water.
Yeah, I promise.
we do.
Best or not best favorite first responder movie.
I can't watch them.
No,
I can't. I get about 5 minutes in and I say, that's not how it's done. And I have to turn it off.
that was like me watching Oz. I loved it, but I'm like, this is so fake.
Yeah.
I'm torn in two directions because I'm either Mother Jugs and Speed or why can't I think of it right
That's
now?
a movie.
If I've mentioned that a time or two. What's the Nicolas Cage one? Why can't I think of it right now?
Where he's a
paramedic
bring
and
out your dad or something?
bringing out the dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll change my answer. There's a new movie with Rainn Wilson.
Yes,
I think it's called
that's awesome.
Code 3.
that's
The
fun.
dark humor in that
Really?
is
Yes.
amazing.
It's
You have
That's
spot
a good
on.
one.
It's so spot on.
That's awesome. I
so
gotta check
spot
that
on.
out
Like
now.
yells at the girl. Yes, I seen a safe. Put your gloves on when they're going into
Yeah.
the call. It's great.
Yeah.
Baywatch.
They watch.
Also, I just, even though it's not a movie, gotta, give it up for Johnny and Roy. So, Emergency.
The Pit.
Oh yeah. Oh, the pit. Is
Oh,
I
my
haven't
yeah.
watched it, but I
Awesome.
feel like
Yeah.
Great show.
Yeah.
Most annoying sound on the radio.
My own voice. I can't stand it.
I have to say, not Audrey's voice, but my voice is definitely one. And also just like open mic
Oh my
feedback.
State police car to car
Oh.
when they're trying to transmit and they're out of range and all you get is
It's
static.
Static,
Yeah.
and
Uh.
it haunts my dreams. Yeah.
It's horrible.
Who's more stubborn, cops, medics, or dispatchers?
Oh boy. I feel like cops are like having kind of a little bit of a different hat in the different fields. I think it's kind of that superhero. I have to come in and fix everything, and I'm always right. And being able to talk you don't even talk a stubborn cop down. You just kind of get on their level and do like a mind game Jedi trick kind of thing with them. Make it think it's their idea, and then you're all
Then you're
set.
good.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even have an answer
Yeah.
because I think that is how the world ends. Like you try to
Gotta get all three to see it your way. All right, best piece of equipment you ever owned.
best, but probably the most utilized is flashlight. You're always going to be, even if it's a bright sunny day and you're going into that dark building,
Yep.
you need it. You know, you can get away with not having your pen or your notepad, but flashlight is probably it. Yeah.
So this I feel is true for fire, EMS, or
Mhm.
dispatch. Hair tie.
Oh, yeah.
If you are trying to take on a call and your hair is tangling with phone cord or a headset,
Yes.
or you're on a call and you're trying to like
That's right.
not get blood
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm going hair tie.
I had a call where I actually tied a girl's hair up on a medical call, and she was puking, and I tied her hair back, and the medic was like, "Oh my god, you just saved our life! Thank you so much less mess." I said, "I got you."
Favorite part of your job?
Favorite part of my job is being able to work with the people I work with, and even through all the crappy calls and everything, knowing that I'm here doing a really important job and really trying at the end of the day to do my best to make the world even a little bit better of a place at the end of the day.
My favorite part of my real job now is when I can find a way to make something easier for the people who are doing the hard work.
Yeah.
But my real favorite part is when I get to answer a phone call or do something that is not what I am supposed to be doing, because I really like that opportunity to kind of have a chance to actually do the work. It's a little hard when you get into a position where you're a little
Yeah.
removed from that to
Mhm.
feel as connected to it.
Mhm.
So
And one word to describe the first responder community.
Unpredictable. Like not what you would expect.
Okay.
that's a tough one. I feel like if I say dynamic, then I'm saying the same answer as Audrey.
No, it's true. It's
It
ever
is.
changing. It's ever flowing. Yeah.
And family.
Family.
At
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
point, we all work together.
Yeah.
If I said
Yes.
hero, there'd be some people who murdered me afterwards. So,
Mm.
you know,
That's
the thank
okay.
you for your service part of our community.
Right.
So this has become the closing question since we interviewed the sheriff and Jimmy. What does being a hero mean to you?
Now that I'm a mom, I think my answer has changed to being someone that my daughter can be proud of. And even if that's removing the detective title and just saying, you know, like I said before, my mom makes the world a little bit of a better place. And knowing, especially in the field that I work in with kids, that, but even, maybe even not just with children, but anybody that I come in contact with, knowing, hey, maybe there are still good people in the world. Maybe there's a little bit of hope. Maybe it's worth it to stick around for another day. Maybe it's gonna get better.
Wait until your kid gets older, because mine just started transitioning into this within the last year or so. Is when I go to work, it's Daddy, give me a hug. Or if I get a call out in the middle of the night, she gets up with it and she's like, give me a hug. And she goes, make sure you come give me a hug when you get home. Like, she's starting to comprehend now what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And even mommy, but she
Right.
like me more so because I'll get called out in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And calls, so she's always like,
Yeah.
that's
More
a
aware of
life
what Daddy
changer,
does.
man.
Yeah. Right.
Just that'll melt you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think for me, a hero in public safety is someone who, like you said, I think there's a lot of kind of negativity surrounding particularly law enforcement, but also, you know, seeing any sort of organized public safety organization as the enemy. And so I think anybody who's helping do the work and maintain the optimism of like trying, for me, it isn't that we necessarily can make huge outcomes every time, but just trying to do your best. For me, the effort and the desire means the world, because none of us is gonna not mess up from time to time. None of us is gonna always get it right. But having that resilience to say like, okay, I faltered, but I'm gonna try and do this different or better, like you said about talking with your partner afterwards, and like, what can I do better? How can I help this be better next time? How can I be better next time? For me, somebody that wants to make it easier for the next person, whether that's a dispatcher making it easier for a field responder, whether it's a field responder making it easier for the next person, that's how we make a better world.
Right.
So.
All working together, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
I thought of one final question was, we'll keep it short. What do you do for wellness? What do you do for yourself?
For myself, I really like to get outside, and I think the kids say touch grass, right? You kind of have to literally just go out and be in nature and not have your phone, not have anything else, but purely the sun shining on your face, the grass under your feet, the birds in the sky, and just really kind of grounding yourself. And it is a difficult job at times, but knowing that there's still natural beauty in the world is really an important thing to never forget.
I think that's really good. I don't like mosquitoes, so this is
Yeah,
not
that's
my
right.
time of year.
Yeah.
I am not going to say that what I do for wellness is healthy. So I'm not advising other people, but I'm a bit of an escapist about mine. So for me, it's like losing myself in a book, or like I just need to like get out of my head and be into something else. So whether that's a TV show binge watch, or more often a book, what that's for me is I just need to like step back and not have people need things from me for a little while.
We waste money on baseball cards.
Yeah, and I game. I got some friends that I've met all over the world that I like kind of disconnect when I put the headset on.
Yeah. Podcast.
Yeah, podcasts are great.
Yeah. Podcasting for sure. Absolutely.
But breathing fresh air is definitely like
It's probably
the beach.
Yeah.
That's my happy place.
Yeah.
Get me to the beach. So.
my dog too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Shout out to Waffles.
Shout out to Owen.
Shout out to Piper, my baby. So, you ladies encompass the entire first responder community. You both combined have done every aspect. So thank you for coming in today. Learned a lot. Didn't know a lot about 911. What goes on with dispatch. Again, the child advocacy unit. You do a job that it takes a special person to be able to do. So I think that being said, again, thank you, ladies, for being here today. For
We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And just saying that the real thanks for the people at 911 should go to the dispatchers.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right.
Pass the information on, pass the podcast stuff up.
Yeah.
Show them the video. Try to get the information out.
So this has been the Hero Podcast, and as I always like to end, don't let the hard days win. Thanks.